Diablo 3 versus Path of Exile. Every time I play Diablo or Path of Exile, I'm always hearing somebody in chat compare the two games. And for good reason. They're probably the two best games in the action RPG genre, if not the only ones. I've played Diablo since they came out back in the 90s, and Path of Exile I've played since it was back in beta several years ago. They're both great games. I like both games. They both have their strengths and weaknesses. Diablo 3 is probably their biggest one, is when they came out and released and had all the server issues and stuff, and the auction house. Path of Exile, probably the play style sometimes is really laggy, kind of stiff if you ask me, but they're still great games. Now we're going to compare the two and see how they match up against each other based off several things. Let's start out with skills. Start out with Diablo 3. In Diablo 3 you have skills that unlock as you level up, passive and active skills per class. And you can switch them out in town or as you're playing through the game. They did away with the Diablo 2 skill tree, unfortunately, which I thought was one of the best parts of Diablo 2. And other than that, that's pretty much it for Diablo 3 skills. The only thing I didn't like is you'll find towards the end of the game when you're running through torments and that you kind of find one build and stick with it most of the time. Apart from that, that's about it for Diablo 3 skills. Path of Exile, on the other hand, they have a wide variety of skills where it's kind of based off of a Final Fantasy VII materia type, as long also a very huge passive tree that you can manipulate and change how you like it. You can pick your class and start in different parts of the passive tree, but you can basically do whatever you want on there. It's really cool. And the materia system they use these gems, which are your skills, and you put them into your armor, and you can mix and match and basically create new type of skills as you're playing, however you want to play your playstyle. Like on here I have a summoner, and I have it combined with skills to help my minions do more damage, have more health, leech life, and all that. It's really awesome. And pretty much it's endless. Pretty much every class can use any skill if they have the requirement. I think this is an awesome idea. It adds a ton of depth to the game. I mean, look at how big this passive tree is. The possibilities are endless. This character truly is of your own creation, and I really love that they did that. Now, it can be a little confusing at times, but you just need to take a little time to plan how you want to build your character. So for me, the clear winner in this is Path of Exile. Let's talk about items next. Items in Diablo 3 are very similar to how they were in Diablo 2, with a couple differences. You have your uniques, your sets, you have gems, jewels. There aren't any runes this time, but it plays out very similar. There's a couple changes where you can take unique items and break them down and take their special properties they have, which is cool, and you can enhance your items. The one big thing that's really nice with Diablo 3 now that it wasn't like this in the beginning is items kind of drop now that are based off of the class you play. So you're kind of always upgrading as you're running around and grinding, which makes it a little more interesting as you're not picking up a lot of useless junk like you used to. And they did away with the auction house, which used to be a big problem with Diablo 3 because people would rather sit and make money and play that than actually play the game and earn the gear. So it's come a long ways. Path of Exile is very similar to kind of like Diablo 2 style, where you run around and gear drops and you can get good gear with a bunch of random stats. There's also uniques. There's a lot of useless uniques, I think, in Path of Exile, but nonetheless there are uniques. The one problem I have with Path of Exile is how hard it is to gear up sometimes, because you have two options. You can grind or you can trade. And trading can be a little tricky in this game because there's so many different currency forms. And another problem with it too is if you want a 6-socketed weapon or something, it is very hard to come by or very expensive to trade for. So it takes a long time to get good gear in this game, and that's probably one thing I dislike about it. It's good to farm for things, but sometimes it takes too long. So I think Diablo 3's got him beat in this category. Now let's talk about the worlds of Diablo 3 and Path of Exile. Diablo, it's always been heaven versus hell, and you're stuck in the middle. And that's always been great to me. I think that's really fun. They do an excellent job portraying the worlds of that. I mean, it's always been good, from Diablo 1 to Diablo 3. The detail in the world is excellent. They've changed it a little bit in Diablo 3 where it's not randomly generated maps as much. There is a little bit. But that's okay. It still feels fresh when you go out and play. And the detail in all of these levels is phenomenal. And you have bosses, mini bosses, unique bosses, you have elite packs, just as you did in Diablo 2, maybe even more in Diablo 3. And it's a hell of a lot of fun. There's countless and endless things to do in the world. Meaning, you'll start off and you have the 5 acts. You have Act 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They're all different. They all bring something different to the table. They all have their good moments and bad. But I think as a whole, Diablo 3 has done an excellent job with their world, as they always do in all the Diablo games. And, I mean, you can credit that to Blizzard. They have a lot of money, and they make sure that their world is polished and it looks good all the time. They've always been that way. And when you have that much money behind it, you better make a good world. That's one of the best things of the game, is being able to explore and adventure different parts of the world that you live in the game. So Diablo 3 has done an excellent job, as always. Path of Exile, they've done an excellent job as well. I mean, you have, it used to be only 3 acts, now it's up to 10, which is fun, and kind of breaks up the game. They used to have, like I said, only 3 acts, and in the past few years, with all the expansions, they've continuously added to the world. Now, it's a little darker and grittier, kind of like Diablo 2, but it's still a fun place to play. You still have, elite packs similar to Diablo in this, and you have bosses and mini bosses and unique bosses just like that. So it's very similar. The artwork and how the world looks is excellent. Everything looks good. It plays well. There's really not a whole lot to say other than it's a polished game like Diablo is. They may not have the money like Blizzard does to be able to put artists, but with what they've done an excellent job. Everything looks great. Your character looks good. The lore and stuff is a little confusing. It's not as polished as Diablo's is. But there's still a story to be told here. And when you go out and explore, you know, there's so much content in the worlds. It's never ending, just as Diablo's is never ending. So honestly, I don't think there's a clear winner between the two. I'm gonna have to say it's a draw. They're basically both good. Now let's talk about the classes with both games. In Diablo, you have 6 classes, 7 if you buy the Necromancer pack. You can play a female or male character and upgrade from Diablo 2, something they listen to from all of us. And you also have leagues and hardcore characters. League's something new to the game, and it's something that Path of Exile has as well. Not a lot of difference. Path of Exile, like I said, they have leagues as well. And you start off with 6 initial characters. You can get a 7th character if you play through the game and unlock her. So the same amount of characters between both games with slight differences, but there's a lot of similarity between the two. You know, the shadow on here is kind of like an assassin from Diablo 2. The witch is like the sorcerer from Diablo 2. They're really similar. There isn't a big difference between both games. The only difference is on probably Path of Exile, you get a little more customization once you get your passives and your skills. But starting out, you have the same selection of classes. They're both very good. The only downside to Path of Exile is you cannot create a male or female character. You're stuck with what you get. So I'm going to have to say, basically, it's a tie between the two. Next, we're going to talk about the art and animation between the two different games. Diablo 3, when it first came out, there was a lot of nitpicking and complaining about the color scheme and how it's not as dark and gritty as Diablo 2 is. And, you know, I'll admit, it is a little more WoW looking than I would like, but I don't think it's that big of a deal. It does have its moments of grittiness and darkness, but it's still its own game, and it fits the game. It's not a big deal. All the animations on all the enemies are really good. Everything, when you use a skill, the animations are right on, they're perfect, they match up good. I don't really feel like I'm lagging in the game too much unless we're having internet problems or connection issues. Everything seems to match up really nice. The enemies look great. When you use your skills, everything looks good. The animations fit with what you're doing. Everything is really polished, and it's to be expected with Blizzard. This is something that they're known for. They always do a phenomenal job with their art style. Their games are always really polished. Another thing I'll mention too with Diablo is their cinematics are great. These are some of the best cinematic moments in video game history. They look fucking great. Apart from that, there's really not a whole lot to complain about with Diablo 3 art and animation. So we'll move on to Path of Exile now. Path of Exile, their art and animation is a little bit clunkier, I think, than Diablo 3's. While their art looks great and it's improved over time, when it started out it was really kind of bland. It's gotten a little more detailed now, it's a lot better, but I still feel the animation is a little bit behind, and I do experience lag often when I play this game. I have problems connecting to their servers at times. It's not fully fleshed out, and with such a big game like this, and being a free game too, I mean, you gotta expect some bugs. That's with any game. I feel Diablo 3 is a little better than them though with this. They got it all fleshed out, everything runs great. But Path of Exile has come a long ways, and it's getting better every time they release a new expansion. Especially this last one with the Oriath, or whatever you want to call it. The art style has improved. They've added a lot of different things. But I think Diablo 3 edges them out just a little bit based off of their world, and because they have the cinematic trailers that are fucking great. Now let's talk about ease of play between the two games. Diablo 3 kind of holds your hand a little bit as you're playing the game. Your items get handed to you as you're leveling up, and your skills unlock as you're leveling up. It's really easy to just come into the game, get straight up into the action. There's not a lot of consequence, and yeah, like I said, it kind of holds your hand a little bit, and it caters to casual gamers a little more. But don't get me wrong, there is depth to the game as well. When you get to the later game, you got to think about how you're going to take down bosses. There's strategy involved. You can mix and match your builds, and overall, I'd say Diablo 3 is a really easy game to just pick up and get right into the action. Everything's fluid and it works great. So it's an easy game to learn and play. Path of Exile, on the other hand, is not so easy. It's going to take you time to figure out what you need to do with your skills, what you need to do with your passive tree, the type of gears and weapons and things you want in your build. There's a lot of thinking involved in the game and a lot of depth, and that can be a very difficult thing starting out. It's not an easy game. It's going to kick your ass at times. I like that and I hate it, because there are points in the game where I struggle with, and then there's parts where I'm like, wow, this is really easy. So I'd have to say, for someone starting out in ease of play, that Diablo 3 is the winner here. Alright, customization next. Diablo 3, there's a great deal of customization. Obviously you can make a male or female character. You start off and you can make, you can put jewels and gems into socketed items you have and customize them that way. You can take unique items, like I mentioned before, and break them down, take their magical properties, and put that on an item you have, which is a really cool thing they added later in the game. You have blacksmiths, which you can create rare armor items, weapons, uniques, and sets. Then you can also take those items and enhance them, add a stat you want to add to it. There's a bunch of possibilities with customization in Diablo 3. There's a good deal. Path of Exile, It's not even close. There is so much customization in this game that it can be confusing at times. I mean, look at the passive tree. The possibilities on this thing are basically infinite, endless. You also have your gems and your skills, I should say, that you can link up and make different combinations of different skills and enhance your skills that way. You have your items you can enhance. You get a hideout. There are so many things you can customize in Path of Exile. So very clearly, I have to say, Path of Exile has got Diablo 3 beat in this handily. Alright, endgame. Diablo 3's endgame consists mostly around the torment level and upping your character and doing adventure mode and rifts and the other modes in the game. And you're basically grinding and continually upgrading your character through these different modes. Not a whole lot of change, but it's better than having to grind for your gear like before. Path of Exile uses the map system they have as endgame. You have different increasing difficulty of maps. You can also magically enhance your map, put a rare modification on it to enhance the drop levels, magic find and all that in it. And it keeps you busy and changes the game up. And you also have the atlas to kind of give you an incentive to do these maps. So I think it's a little more fleshed out on Path of Exile, the end game. I'd like to see a little more end game out of both games, to be honestly, but I think Path of Exile just edges Diablo out here a little bit. So who's the winner between the two? Well, they're both tied. Path of Exile and Diablo 3 are both excellent games. The depth that you get from Path of Exile is unparalleled, I think. It's great. You get a lot to do. You can customize your skills, your character, everything you want to do. I love that about this game. It's great. It is challenging. I do like that too. It's fun to be able to have a challenge every now and then. Every game shouldn't be super easy and hold your hand all the time. I started playing Path of Exile because I was upset with Diablo 3. I think Diablo 3, though, has come a long way since then. All these updates and expansion that it's had, and the Necromancer pack and all that have really added a lot to the game, and they fixed a lot of the problems. The auction house is gone. The server issues are gone. A lot of the lag is gone. It's gotten much better, and that's good. However, between the two games, I'd have to say that it's good to have healthy competition between the two. Diablo shouldn't be the only good action RPG game, and I'm glad to see that there's a competitor in Path of Exile, and a good one at that. So hopefully this healthy competition between the two continues, and we're going to be the benefactors of that because of it. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you try out both games. They're both great. Path of Exile is free, so might as well play it, right? Anyways, thank you for watching this video, and I hope you guys have a good day.